I'm back with another video about multiplying fractions. I told you when we were adding fractions that this was going to be easier, and I'm going to show you that now. Half times 1/3. You just multiply the tops together and you multiply the bottoms together. It's that simple. Often we use the word of rather than times. I could say half of 1/3 is 1/6. I've tried to illustrate it over here with the chocolate bar again. The 1/3 is what I've indicated here, one piece out of 3. And if I take half of that third, I'll be taking this much right here, which turns out to be one piece out of 6. Here's another example. I want to look at 2/3 of 3/4. Now, the rule is just multiply the 2 times the 3. That'll give you 6. 3 times the 4 gives me 12. Now, that can be reduced though. We talked about reducing fractions before. That can go down to 1/2 because I can divide the 6 and the 12 by 2. Now, as an illustration over here, chocolate bar's got 3/4 of the bar illustrated there, so that's the 3/4 here. Now, I want to take 2/3 of this. Well, that's pretty simple because I've got 3 parts here. If I take 2 of those 3 parts, there's half the chocolate bar. Now, some kids like to see explanations. They want to know why. Other kids just say, just give me the rule and I'm happy. So anyway, the rule is multiply the tops together, multiply the bottoms together. Now, there's another advantage to working with fractions because when you're multiplying, it doesn't matter whether the 2 was here and the 3 there. We could have had them in a different order here, and I'd still get the same answer. So I can treat the 2 as being over the 4, 2/4, and I can reduce that. I can reduce the 2 over 4 to 1 over 2. I can think of the 3 being on top of this 3. Divide them both by 3. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. I can get my half. Now, you can't do any of this stuff when you're adding and subtracting fractions, but there are a lot of things you can do when you're multiplying. Now, that's about all I want to say about this, except I'll just show you an example. I used to mess with some of my high school classes by putting a question on the end of a test, something like this. 1/2 times 5 over 6 times 2 over 7 times 3 over 10 times 14 over 15. And ask them to give me the answer to this in a simplified form. So some of them would just multiply straight across the top. I think if you multiply straight across the top on this one, you get something like 420, and on the bottom you get, I think, 12,600. And some would do it that way and spend an awful lot of time trying to reduce it, not realizing that because we're going to multiply all of these together, you could pretend that that 5 was right on top of the 15, and we can reduce it to 5 over 3. The 7 would go into 7 and into 14. What else have we got here? We've got 3 goes into itself once and a 6 twice. We've got this 2 on top of that 2. Well, there's another 2 on top and a 2 on the bottom. In other words, we're reducing these as if they're on top of each other. And what have I got here? I've got 1 times 1 times all the way across there, and on the bottom I've got a bunch of 1s, a 10 and a 3. I've ended up with 1 over 30. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing this with somebody that's 7, 8, or 9 years old, but once they get good at fractions, you could give them longer ones like this, so they understand that when you're multiplying, it doesn't matter where this is positioned on top. You could put that 5 over here and the 3 over there and do it in a totally different order. So that's it for multiplying. Just remember, you multiply the tops together, you multiply the bottoms together, and you can simplify before you do that if you'd like.